What's going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, September 28th, a Throwback Thursday as usual. I've got a sweet crew with me. We're on the heels of an absolutely electric Dynamite, the go-home Dynamite for Wrestle Dream. We've got a wicked throwback topic on tap for everybody. First, let me start with my esteemed colleague all the way from Philly, head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you doing today, my buddy?
Doing all right. It's been a long week, so get to being able to talk about wrestling as a break.
I hear you for sure, and let's get into it. Up next, of course, from the DMV, we got Tuesday Night Delight, Thursday night even more. Shad Huda, how are you? Shad on this fine Thursday.
I'm doing good, guys, man. I'm definitely on the same wavelength as Anthony. Been busy week with my, real job, but I like this job a little bit better. So let's get into the Dynamite and Throwback Thursday talk.
I hear you 100%. And it's funny, I just biffed the camera cuts. And speaking of tough weeks, I do have to go immediately after this and get my back right tire fixed. Nail in the tire. Tough week for all of us across the board here at Wrestling Republic. Can't catch a break. But speaking of catching breaks, we got a couple comments. Josh Markowitz, let's go. Let's do go, Josh. Good to hear from you. And we had a blast yesterday, of course. And then also, goes almost without saying, Bobby Petito with the hello, guys. One of our favorites. What's going on, Bobby? Good to have you as usual. You're the man, and we're stoked to have you here. Now, let's talk about this electric Dynamite from last night, which it was electric, at least in my eyes. And let's immediately talk about the most compelling storyline from the event, which is Adam Cole and MJF. We had Adam Cole and MJF. They went fishing. Adam Cole pulled the Dynamite Diamond ring out. There was a lot of things to be talked about as far as their interactions throughout the night. Let's talk about the whole thing as well as the Jay White promo following. But let's just start with the Cole and MJF interactions pre-Jay White promo. Anthony, how did you feel about all of it? Excuse me.
I like the promo video with them on the boat and Big Show reprising Captain Insano. I thought that was humorous. As far as the segment goes in the ring, he's obviously needing surgery with his injury. So they're not going to vacate the titles that really don't mean anything anyway. They really haven't, Ring of Honor, they really haven't done much with the tag titles. And now MJF's going to go solo to defend them. I got to be honest. I don't see the benefit in doing this. If he's going to hold these belts until Adam gets back months from now, I don't really understand how that's going to add value to the titles when he's presumably MJF's going to single-handedly defend these titles for months until Adam comes back, in theory. And Adam getting interrupted by Roddy and him running down there on crutches. I got to be honest, I didn't care for the segment. It didn't do anything for me. I didn't do it. And the Jay White, I don't know where they're going with it. I understand Max has a target on his back. He is technically the AEW World Champion, even though this is the second pay-per-view in a row. He's not defending it. So I don't know where they're going with it. The jump in the back of who that is, whether it's Undisputed Kingdom, some combination of that group. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't think it's Edge. I know people are thinking it's Edge. I don't believe it's Edge.
I hear you on that as far as the speculation is concerned, and we'll definitely get further into that. But as far as like the initial interaction regarding Adam Cole's injury and then Max from there, Shad, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean the video package itself, I thought, like he said, it was pretty entertaining, very funny, and a little bit telling in a sense. You could definitely see the teasing of how MJF kind of feels about his whole relationship with the former Undisputed Era member Roderick Strong. But in regards to the actual in ring promo, the first half of it was, okay. It's definitely a bummer, if this is an actual injury, and I'm assuming it is an actual injury. Adam Cole, man, this is a guy who's having a tough break. He's coming off of injuries prior, and this is another little bit of a setback. And it is kind of a strange place with them being the tag champions, and it's unfortunate because they're the ROH tag team champs. That's an ROH tag team title, but it definitely feels like the storyline holds more weight than the actual title does. And you're going to have one superstar. We'll see what happens. Saying he's going to have a handicap match. Whether that happens or not, we'll see against the Righteous. And you put yourself in a weird place over there because MJF really, in theory, should not lose because he's your top tier star and he's the AEW champ. And I know it's a handicap match, but having him lose and the champ lose is tough. But then again, you don't really want the Righteous to lose because they're the actual tag team. So it's definitely a weird place for that. In regards to Jay White and MJF's exchange, I enjoyed it for the most part. I thought it was a solid exchange. I think it definitely caught my interest because I'm just a big fan of both of these guys, and it's going to be interesting because you got Jay White who's playing the heel in this entire feud that we're about to get, but then you have Max who's kind of a baby face right now, but he's still the biggest heel on the roster. So you got two kind of devious heels going against each other and two guys who are incredible on the mic. The exchange was real solid, but I do feel like it was a little bit long-winded. I feel like they could have shortened it, condensed it a little bit. It kind of got a little bit redundant towards, the midway to the end of it. I think they could have, trimmed some fat on it. But it was good. And if that wasn't good, obviously we're going to get to the next part. The second part of what happened at the end of the night will definitely, they got my attention at 100% from there.
I hear you. I hear you. And one thing I do want to add is like we've got this handicap match with the Righteous, and to me this has written all over it. Adam Cole's got this ankle injury with the boot. If we want to hint on Adam Cole, which we're probably going to get into, potentially turning on Max in the near future, even further than we already have, maybe being the heel and showing up on crutches, maybe in a boot, maybe in a cast, and using that as a weapon, given his finisher, the last shot or the boom, as they call it in AEW, to the back of the head of a member of the Righteous, might not be the worst. Move it along and keep the belts on them. Maybe the Righteous win the rematch. Maybe another team takes those ROH titles later. But that might be a scenario that I could see happening as far as Cole showing up for that match with the Righteous, what should be a handicap match, and then lays a knockout shot with the boom. That might show who Adam Cole really is deep down, right? Because we kind of saw that today in the vignette with Max pulling out the diamond ring, right? And I think they're both bad guys at heart, and I think we all know that. That's part of this too. But on top of that, it's an awesome storyline, I think, because there's something really little in the fishing scene that I really loved, where Adam Cole explained to Max that it's okay to have more than one friend, and Max said, like, I don't get it, but I do. Right? Like, I disagree. I only have one. Personally, I think what it's leading to is Max doesn't have any friends and has no desire to have any friends. He doesn't care. Right? He's using the one guy that calls him a friend as a friend for the time being. I think that's what we need to lead to, not necessarily the other way around, as much as it looks right this second. Like Adam Cole will be the first one to turn heel, and he's our scumbag is working. At the end of the day, Max's wheelhouse is being a heel. Now, we've got a few comments here before we talk about the other half of this segment really quickly. Bobby Petito, shout out once again. You guys are awesome too. Bobby, no, you're the one that's awesome. We know that. Another one here from Bobby Petito. I'm interested in the match between MJF versus Jay White. I think we all are. That one is an interesting bell-to-bell match at least. And I think pace-wise, it's just a good pairing. Max and Jay White fit each other. I totally get that. Josh Markowitz is in the comments once again as well with when Adam gets back. I think he takes the belt from MJF, and then he once again, I think he corrected himself here. My bad. Josh Markowitz, when Adam gets back, I think he takes the belt from MJF. He hasn't caught a break with all these injuries. He deserves it by now. I hear a little bit of that. I'm not 100% sure. And then another one from Bobby Petito. The Righteous is a tag team that have wrestled on Ring of Honor before. MJF hasn't wrestled on Ring of Honor before. And that's an interesting point to bring up. Sean, I'm going to toss it back to you. What do you think? Because let's go, and now we can talk about the tag team match all day, but let's go back and let's really talk about the Jay White promo with Max, as well as kind of the ending as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I got you. No, for sure. I mean, so we go into this promo exchange between both of them, and you see like Jay White showing his bit of that he doesn't view Max as one of the top guys. He's going to be the one that's going to be able to take it away from him. And, we heard everything about that. The ending of it just completely, it's like a swerve in like a movie at this point. Like I didn't expect it to happen because I thought we would just have that exchange and it may be something we would dabble with maybe at the pay-per-view or maybe next week's Dynamite. But the final scene after obviously the ending of the show in ring, which we'll talk about later, with the man in the devil mask and other people masked up in all black beating Jay White down. And what you will notice is Jay White told his buddies to go off when they had the initial promo and whatnot. Jay White by himself, Dolo, getting beat down, and you cut off to the person in the mask who had the same exact devil mask that Max had when he won the tournament or the Battle Royal. And you look at, I guess it's one of those things where if you look at the frame of this individual, he doesn't look like Max. He's not as stocky as Max. He looks a lot more slender, a lot more skinny. You look at his neck, it looks a lot more thin. In my mind, I'm like, wow, who could this be? And it goes to a standpoint where I guess the initial thought is like, it may be Adam Cole. Maybe Adam Cole has got to the point where he's just, aligned himself so full on with Max, where he's become the devil within himself. Like the devil has corrupted him to a point where Adam may have been an angel and he became the devil too. And he's going ahead and just, going full on hill and helping this guy out. Or Max could have corrupted the entire faction of the kingdom because there's a bunch of people. But in my mind, I really think this is Kyle O'Reilly, man. I think this is an opportunity for us to get Kyle O'Reilly back. And I think the rest of them are the kingdom and Adam Cole. I think Max has got all of these guys aligned together in the palm of his hand. And I think he has created a super kingdom, a super heel faction where it may be a case where everyone will get the opportunity to become champ at some point. Maybe he'll just go ahead and relinquish the titles and hand it to the kingdom because Adam Cole is out. I don't know, but I have a feeling that all of those gentlemen are the kingdom, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, aligned with Max. And I think we got ourselves a power faction in the making.
I totally dig it. I think the only other choice would maybe be the original firm. I don't even know. It could be anyone. I think I'm more intrigued by who's behind the other masks. That mask represents MJF. And if he's not involved, that doesn't make any sense. Right. That was the one he brought out at All Out 2021 when he won as the Joker in the ladder match. Right. And that's the one he's always worn. He wore it in his hometown. I'm not saying that was him behind the mask, but he's behind whatever this is at least my opinion. Anthony, what do you think's going on here? Who's behind the masks? Is it Edge? Is it Kyle O'Reilly? Who is it?
I think it's the Undisputed Kingdom. I think it's a combination of both. I do think Kyle was behind the mask only because Adam's quote unquote injured, or whether or not it's supposed to be Adam and Kyle was in the mask to cover it up. I don't know. But I think the smart play, if they wanted to do this, if this is the Undisputed Kingdom, all the targets, like you said, Clark, are on MJF because it was MJF's mask. It would be the ultimate heel tactic if Adam is making this false representation and framing MJF, that MJF's behind it. Because Jay White's feuds with MJF, it's not with Adam Cole. Adam Cole was not there when that all went down. It could be a frame job. And at this point, with Adam out, no one's there to watch MJF's back. Technically, Jay White has a club, so it's that entire group against MJF. It's a numbers game. Adam also has ties to the Bullet Club. Could that get mixed in? Are we looking at a super faction? He has ties to Undisputed Era. He has ties to the Kingdom. He has ties to the Bullet Club.
He has ties to the Elite too. To your point,
I don't see them getting in it.
I agree, but I'm just still to your point, right? He's got a lot of cards.
He's the Kevin Bacon of wrestling.
Yeah, he knows everyone. I love it. Yeah, I think this is one that's kind of fascinating to really think about. I love the cliffhanger attack. It's something that I feel like is underutilized in wrestling. I loved this because now we all kind of want to know, even though we have ideas, right? We all think it's Kyle O'Reilly. We all think it could really be anything.
They were all very slim. So if we're going by body frame, it's not. I don't think it's Max. I don't think it's Edge. They were all smaller. They all look smaller and thinner.
I don't necessarily know that the reveal matches the body types, and I don't know.
No, and that's I
which
think
is an old school technique.
I personally don't like that. I don't like the bait and switch.
I don't hate it only because in today's day and age, we're so good at being able to be like, that's so and so behind the mask, right? Like, I think that was kind of the brilliance of like Jericho dressing up as Penta, or even if you go all the way back to DDP as La Parka, like somehow we bought it. And it's really hard to do that these days because we're so good at watching the replay back. It's so convenient to go back on YouTube and slow it down and see, right, what so-and-so thinks or what so-and-so says behind a mask, especially if they're like mystery, right? Like body language and all of that is so easy for us to recognize now. In like certain situations, because Anthony, I also hear where you're coming from, where if the bait and switch is too obvious, it's like, well, wait a minute. Like that was a little like the example I'd give in Rest in Peace Bray Wyatt, but like Uncle Howdy, right? We were debating whether it was Vincent or whether it was Bo Dallas. We'll never know. But
in
like
all fairness, it was twice. It was both.
It was. But even then, like it's one of those things where like, you know, we'll never get the reveal, but I don't necessarily mind if we're thrown for a loop on that review. Like in hindsight, I was at All Out 21. And from where I was standing, we weren't 100% sure on MJF. You go back and watch pay-per-view, it's very clearly MJF under the mask. Mm-hmm. You know, like the mannerisms are obvious. That's where I think I'm okay with a bait and switch in this scenario. Because if it is Edge, which it wasn't under that mask, I'm totally cool with that.
Legally, it couldn't be anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I'm totally cool with that. Okay, wait a minute. We've got a few comments here from Ben Allison. We've got Thursday show trio is killing it per usual. Thank you, Ben. And then one more. I really think it was a woman wearing the mask, which is actually fascinating. I didn't think about that.
Brit? You think Brit's doing
That's
it on
very possible.
on his
Now, if it was
behalf?
Britt
The
Baker,
Mercedes Monet.
now we're talking. What about Thunder Rosa?
Ooh.
Trying to get her retaliation on Britt. Now you bring Britt into the storyline too, but from the other side.
Man, that would be kind of crazy. That's like
kind of crazy.
That's kind of a crazy curveball.
Speaking of 6 degrees, that's a crazy curveball. But I mean, I don't know. I just had a wicked, awful idea there, like the Grinch. That's and Bobby Petito adding even maybe it's Bobby Fish. That would be fascinating too. We know about his history. Sorry,
I don't think it's Bobby Fish.
Well, I think Bobby Fish could have been one of the guys, but he was not the mask guy.
I don't think he's
not the main mask guy.
I don't think he's returned to AEW.
I still believe it's. I believe. What if it's Mercedes Monet?
That's what I was just saying.
Also, who's in a matching boot? Isn't she in a boot as well?
Yeah.
Well,
those things can be used as weapons.
It's Omos.
Ask Bob Orton.
That was a cast on his arm. That was not on his foot.
Same thing.
Okay.
Drop kick with the boot would hurt. I'm just saying it's possible.
It would. Good luck getting up. But yeah.
It's possible.
Performing it will be hard too, though. That's a lot of weight that you gotta.
You never know. I don't know. I mean, Hines Ward played a whole career with no ACLs, guys. You know, it's possible. It's possible. But even then, with that, let's move on to Julia Hart and Willow Nightingale and the build to the Chris Statlander match. Anthony, how did you feel about this, the Julia Hart versus Willow match? And then how do you feel about the Statlander follow-up?
I gotta be honest. I don't think this is Julia's best showing. I like Willow a lot. This match didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was. This Dynamite was very off to me. I might be in a minority opinion on this, but just as a whole, didn't do much for me. The Statlander match, it's a match on a card. It's not. I feel, and this may be a little off topic, but like I don't feel like this show that they were building towards. I don't really think they've done much to make me really care enough to go, I need to see this show. I need to put $50 down and see this show. I just kind of feel like they're just throwing matches together and like, oh, here you go. There's no real heat there. I think they tried to manufacture it last night, but it's like it's really still not there. It's not like a rivalry where I'm like, oh, I really want to see these two go at it. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I just didn't care for it.
Yeah, I totally hear you. And then Ben's got me on this one. It's true. He goes, Clark, after complaining about Cody wearing a cast for a month and booking a boot story is good. LMAO. And yeah, no, it is. I'll give you that. It's funny. That one's ironic. If there's not much I can do about that though. I enjoyed the cast storyline at the end of the day, because it gave me a lot of fodder to make fun of it. And if they go overboard with the boot, I'll do the same. But just one shot with the boot, I'm cool with. I don't know. I guess that's what I would say about that. Anthony, I totally hear where you're coming from on this Julia Hart Willow thing. Willow Nightingale is like one of my favorites. And I think that's the logical matchup for Statlander. So I don't really get it. Shot, I'm going to toss it to you. Like, what are we doing here with Willow?
I mean, we spoke about it yesterday, and I going into this match when we talked about the preview and the Dynamite, it makes zero sense why the person who's losing the match is not being built for this title match compared to the winner. Now, Julia Hart, the commentary has done, a weekly thing where she's got this immaculate winning streak. She's won like 27 matches, I want to say, in a row, but when I looked at yesterday's match, that wasn't really her winning. She's using heel tactics of her heavy, which makes her not look dominant. Like, the only thing dominant about her is that she has an eerie character and that she's part of the House of Black. But as a wrestler, you're supposed to make me believe that she's a more dominant figure going in a match versus someone of the stature of Chris Statlander, who's the champion, who beat Jade Cargill and Dr. Britt Baker on back-to-back defenses on a Friday and a Saturday, you're not selling me the ticket for that. The match itself was all right. It wasn't a bad match. They got a good amount of time, and I'm glad about that. My biggest fear that I spoke about yesterday is us squashing Willow Nightingale, because they've definitely squashed momentum of her. I mean, this is a woman who beat Mercedes Moné for a title, and all momentum since then has completely fell off a roof. Even her having a win over Athena in a Owen match, being the Owen champ, and also having a match of the year contender with Athena for the ROH women's title, she's back to square one doing nothing, and you're throwing her to the wolves with Julia Hart. Julia Hart going into the match with Statlander, it's the same women's booking that they always have. It's, I'm gonna run over there, like, you're beating up this person, I'm gonna run over there, and then you're gonna run off. Like, there's no actual storyline being built to it. There's no talking segments to it. I'm hearing Brody Lee talk more than I'm hearing Julia Hart speak. So it's not a feud that I'm super amped about. I'm sure they'll have good chemistry. I don't think Julia Hart by any means is a bad wrestler. I mean, everyone, the viral moment last night was her hitting a very, very good moonsault. But I want you to know this, Julia. It's always Tiffy time.
Yeah, the sneak in a Tiffy time reference. I hear you.
Prettiest moonsault in the world, man.
Julia's awesome. Tiffy's moonsault is hard to quantify how good it is.
And then we're not going to even start with Io Sky's moonsault.
Well, that's different. She's the goddess of the sky. Yeah. But I mean, you've got Willow Nightingale is, in my eyes, one of the most underrated talents in all of women's wrestling. Like, she's huge, and we don't realize that. And I mean that not physically. I mean, she's got the dictionary definition of it.
That's a franchise babyface in your women's division.
Absolutely. Everything about her is awesome.
To one point, like, I literally think that she can be AEW's Bianca Belair. Like, as a dominant, strong champ who's just very, likable. You could throw her in doing like whatever. Like, she's got that type of like stature, and just kind of like, I won't say like her gimmick is very different than Bianca Belair's, but they're very happy-go-loving people, very likable. The fans are very receptive to her when she comes out. Her music is freaking amazing.
Yes.
I mean,
no, I don't mind that comparison at all. And we got a few comments too before we move on here. We got Bobby Petito with Ruby Soho should be the one to beat Chris Statlander for the TBS championship. Whoa, that's a big claim. I don't know. That I feel like that there's a lot of moving parts there. I don't know necessarily about Ruby being the one to win. Maybe Willow goes to NJPW or Stardom. Also from Bobby Petito, I think she's already kind of like shown how good she can be in both those companies, but AEW is where she needs to be booked in my eyes.
She needs to be on weekly television.
Julia from Stardom at the New Japan show, yes, and it was a good match too, by the way, Bobby. I actually saw that one. Shout out Kobe Gonzalski for showing me that match. But let's move along. Let's talk about this Swerve Strickland and this Hangman Page promo. I love this thing. I love Hangman. I love Swerve. It's a perfect matchup. It's a perfect juxtaposition because they're so similar and so different. They're so immensely talented in their own ways, yet they have so many differences, and they played on that perfectly in this promo, in this contract signing. I cannot wait for this match. I am beyond hyped. I thought Hangman did his part, and boy, did Swerve show just how great he can be when you put him in a spot opposite someone that can even sniff his level of talent. Swerve Strickland is, in my eyes, the most underrated promo in wrestling, and he showed it once again last night. For a contract signing, what more could you ask for? Sean, I'm going to toss it right to you. How much did you love this segment?
I feel like I should do a victory dance from what I said yesterday, because Tony Khan must be watching my takes. He listened to me last night. I said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again today. These two guys are criminally underrated in both sides. Like, I think Hangman Adam Page is an argument to be in the Mount Rushmore for AEW, and I think he's the best babyface in AEW by the longest distance ever. Like like I said yesterday, this guy does an incredible job within bringing reality, and you believe every single word this guy says because it's coming from human emotions and it's coming from a place that you can tell that he's experienced in his life. And then on the other side, you have Swerve Strickland, and this guy is a mastermind. He is an evil scientist. He's a genius within getting people's under their skin. And he is a person that it's a battle of just two different emotions. And these guys had an incredible back and forth segment. We've had some pretty good contract signings this week, man. From NXT from the Carmelo Hayes and the Ilya Dragunov one to this one. Both of them were amazing. They've got me so excited for Sunday night. Like, if I had to give you a list of matches I'm most excited for between both pay-per-views, but more so for Wrestle Dream, this match is definitely at the top of the card for me because these guys, like, this is what makes a match big time. Your build up to it. These guys haven't had a long, ample amount of time to set up this feud, but in that short time frame, they've convinced you as a viewer that I need to see what's about to happen because these two are going to literally go to war. They're going to beat, blood down each other's leg, man. Like, it's going to be the real thing. I can't say because I ain't going to curse, but they're going to, be ish at it down someone's leg, and it's going to be crazy, man. Like, it's one of those things. And man, I just want them to feud forever because you know how good Hangman Adam Page is with long-term feuds. I feel like these two could have a very good methodical feud for a while, and I'm super excited for it.
Same. I'm with you. And it's funny, like, we've talked about how great Swerve is on this show. We've talked about it multiple times, how great Swerve is. This was the ultimate, the buckshot kill shot line.
What that was the line,
man.
If you watch Lucha Underground, you know what he's talking about. I loved it, man.
It was
that
so
kill shot line
funny.
was a haymaker.
It was a right hand over the top, no problem, like right square on the jaw. I loved it. Bobby Petito agrees with us here too. He's most excited for Swerve Strickland versus Adam Page.
One more thing.
Wrestle Dream. I am as well. Bobby.
One more thing though. Can you put it on the solo for 1 second?
Yeah, oh yeah, I got you. Yes.
Tony Khan, if you truly watch this, listen to me. We saw yesterday Swerve cut off Nana from doing the little dance or whatever. Let's play off of that. Wrestle Dream. Whatever money you got in your pocket, let's lease. Ain't nobody for Shaka Khan, and let's Swerve in Seattle or Washington in his hometown. Do you know how crazy that crowd is gonna go? All the Defy fans out there, they're gonna lose their mind. Let's lease that for Sunday. Let's give him that entrance. That's all I gotta say.
If they hit him with Ain't Nobody, I will.
I'm jumping.
I was about to say
crazy.
I'll pee my pants, but not literally on air. Figuratively speaking, I will pee my pants. Anthony, did you enjoy the build for Hangman and Swerve as much as we did?
Honestly, no. The promo really didn't do anything for me. It was just I don't know what it was. It just didn't do anything for me. I think it's going to be a great match, but the promo didn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it was the idea of Hangman. It's classic back to Hangman being the anxious millennial cowboy. He talked about how it didn't actually feel as great accomplishing what he did when he won the world title. He talked about how, there are days he wakes up and he goes to work and it does work out and it feels great, but it doesn't necessarily register with him. It's the classic anxious millennial cowboy. And then you have Swerve on the other end, the mogul, who's borderline overconfident what he's done, right? He calls himself a mogul. He calls himself the guy that runs the show for his organization and his group, yet he still has the complaints about not being given the opportunities that Hangman did. And Hangman explains, I backed it up every time I did. And then on the other side of that, you have Swerve, who's like, I just want that chance. And I feel like the brilliance of this is that chance for Swerve. and it's against the most worthy of opponents in Hangman Page, and the belt doesn't matter. To me, this is the match of the show, and the promo is what really set it up for me because it played on the emotions of both men in reality, the reality of the situation. We've seen Swerve at the Grammys, but we haven't seen him carry World Championship gold. We've seen Hangman carry World Championship gold, but we haven't seen him necessarily feel great about himself outside of that, right? He's always fighting from underneath, and that's what makes Hangman Hangman. I keep repeating anxious millennial cowboy, but I think that's what I love so much about him. As a fellow millennial, it's how a lot of millennials feel, right? You're trying to live up to be as great as you can, and it just doesn't feel so great because you can't quite prove it to the generation before you, and then the generation after you is different as well. And we're stuck in this spot where, we didn't grow up with smartphones. We got them in high school at the earliest, right? As millennials. And I think that's kind of the brilliance of the Hangman character is he's that guy, right? He's anxious because he's unsure. And despite winning the title and despite all the greatness he's achieved, he's still taking Swerve Strickland very, very, very seriously because of the way that Swerve carries himself and the caliber athlete Swerve is. Then they get in the promo mode and it gets real personal. And that's what I loved so much about it. I thought it was as real to for lack of a better term as you could ask for out of a promo segment as far as the contract signing is concerned, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into Throwback. It is Throwback Thursday, of course. We've got a hilariously fun throwback topic, considering we just had a move by SmackDown from Fox to NBC Universal. Let's go all the way back to the year 2023 years ago when Raw left USA for TNN. Anthony, break this one down for us. This is right almost following the Monday Night Wars, but not quite to the end of them.
Yeah, Raw started in 1993, January of 93, on USA Network. So when they left 7 years later in September, they were in the middle of the Monday Night Wars. At that point, they were winning, but it's an incredible gamble when you're in a war to change into another network that's less known. TNN did not have the coverage that USA Network had. But it was a successful payoff for them. For 5 years, they were on TNN. And I think a lot of people forget, that was towards the end of the Monday Night War. It would end in March of 2001. But, it was an incredible gamble, like I said. And the first episode, WWF put the WWF World title. The Rock was the defending champion against Chris Benoit. Vince Russo, the former head booker of WWF, who was now booking WCW, his decision was to book himself over Booker T to win the WCW World title the same night. WWF ended up winning that night, I think, $5.5 million to like 2, almost 3. So even though they went to another network, they still beat them out. The infamous simulcast for that last Monday Night War, or not even a war, but it was at that final episode of Nitro. That was on TNN, not on USA. I think a lot of people forget that. And they only were on TNN for 5 years. Then they would go back to USA, and they've been back with USA since 2005. And as you look at the question of, well, are they going to leave USA now? Personally, I don't think they're going to. I think the deal just hasn't been reached yet. It's such a linchpin to the USA Network, and to have all that content, especially with the Hollywood strike quasi almost done, but it's still, you have guaranteed hours and hours of programming. There's no strikes. that's a hot commodity, and WWE has been a very big commodity for NBC Universal over the years. For 30 plus years that Raw has been in existence, 25 plus of those years have been on USA. So I think they should stay on there, but we'll see what happens. But that was a huge move when they did that in 2000.
I mean, and one thing that I will add that's interesting is TNN became Spike TV, which is to me the most fascinating part of this. So TNN becomes Spike TV, right? And I'll never forget, you had Raw on Spike TV down the road, followed immediately by Slam Ball, which was wild, right? Then Raw goes back to USA, and this is where it's fascinating. TNA Impact fills that slot down the road. And I wonder if Raw doesn't temporarily move from USA Network to TNN, which eventually becomes Spike and is now the Nashville Network. If we don't end up with Impact in a position that it's in today, where it's still a functioning brand because of the fact that it was on a network like Spike TV at the time that it was as TNA Impact. It's ironic that the entire company changed the name of their brand.
There's one other casualty of this. When WWF went to TNN, it forced the cancellation of ECW on that network and ultimately ended in its demise. It was the Nashville Network. Then they rebranded the National Network when WWF went on there. And then they eventually became Spike because they kept trying to rebrand themselves as.
Well, and then Versus after that.
Oh yeah.
Yes. It's a wild timeline. It's one of those things. Shad, do you remember that? Like, I mean, even things as simple as, this is another irony too, before I toss it to you, Shad, sorry, really quick, I forgot about when it became Versus, the WEC was on Versus, which was the 145 pound and 135 pound premier mixed martial arts network. They were eventually bought by the UFC. That's why we have lower weight classes in the UFC now. And so it's unbelievable the timeline of that network in combat sports. The Ultimate Fighter was broadcast on the network for the first time. Tough Enough was broadcast on that network for the first time. It's wild what one network that was small at times, bigger at times, had its peak and kind of fell the other way, did really for combat sports. It's kind of hard to quantify if you think about it. I mean, Impact being their premier weekly live program and turning into the name of a top 3 North American wrestling company, right? As much as we have the TNA history, it is pretty fascinating. But yeah, Shad, your memories of that era and everything involved with it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the TNN and the Spike TV era is probably the most reminiscent from my childhood, because that's when I like kind of got into wrestling as a elementary school kid, and a lot of memories kind of resonated and are still fresh in the brain, and you just remember the channels and the commercials, and like you mentioned, the Slam Ball, man. Like I heard that they brought that back, if I'm not mistaken.
They did. They brought it back. They did. They did.
But that's that's neither here or there. It's interesting because like when we definitely when the topic was brought up, it's crazy how relatable it is to now, and it's very eerie in a sense too, because this literally happened like last week, and we're going in the 23-year anniversary. It's really eerie just to know that, but it's crazy. It just shows you how wide the universe of the professional wrestling, especially the WWE world, is, because I'll be frank with you, I don't throw on USA Network. I never really threw on TNN, stuff like that. Prior to that, there's not a lot of shows that catch my attention, and they get a lot of viewership, and their bread and butter is the WWE. And to your point, to go into current day, I'm definitely interested to see what happens with Monday Night Raw, because they got SmackDown obviously coming up, and they're going to get that as their show for Friday night. But it would be, beneficial to just maybe keep the entire WWE universe within one umbrella for their network. But who knows, man? Business is different. We're in a different time frame. Streaming services are prevalent, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I agree, and it's wild. I do think at the end of the day, it'll all be figured out. But it is funny. You made a great point about the post shows on all those networks. Like, I remember not just Slam Ball is like the only one I watched, but like I never watched Burn Notice or NCIS,
Stripperella, that cartoon with Pam Anderson,
or Monk, or Stripperella, or any of those follow-up shows during the original cable era. Sorry if that's a dated reference.
Do you remember when they were jumping back to USA? Spike was so petty, they kept bleeping out every time they said USA Network.
Yes.
So they said it so many times where they finally just went, fine, say
whatever.
Yeah.
Hysterical. Okay. Either way, with that brings us to the end of Throwback Thursday. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. Helps us out immensely. Follow us on Instagram. Do all of that. Wrestling Republic, at Wrestling Republic, at Wrestling Republic over on X, Twitter. Follow Drizzy doing the live tweets. Check out No Mercy, the post show, and everything else. Check out Take It to the Table. Check out Sold Separately. Check out all of our stuff. Just check it out. Do us a huge favor and check us out. And that's not the point. Have an awesome one. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And that's it. That's the end.